When in Rome, you do as the Romans. So when you're on Blackpool Beach, you do as the English. With a deck chair, eating rock, even putting a hanky on your head. And those postcards.
Hey, Sonia!
Dear folks, having a lovely time at
For some
Blackpool.
inexplicable reason, a holiday just isn't a holiday without that card.
Lots of love, Matt.
Would you like a screwdriver? I'm not now, look, we're 10 minutes late.
It can't be a whistle. I've tried blowing it.
Don't you love me anymore, Harold? I haven't had to slap your face for 2 hours.
Smutty British humour from the Saucy Seaside Postcards. High art or tasteless and tacky. This is where the public face of that stiff upper lip crumbles into something completely different.
Put your knees down, Mr. Jones. They are downers.
In the 50s and 60s, smut was banned in books, but bought at the beach, proudly on public display for all to see. Saucy, sexist, silly or seedy, but as British as bangers and mash.
Morning, Tony.
Morning, Bill. How's the good lady?
Oh, not bad, thanks. Not bad. Yes.
Who better to talk about them than Dad's Army's air raid warden and author of a book on seaside humour, Bill Pertwee.
Everybody had to send a postcard back to their friends or relations and neighbours to tell them that they were at the seaside. Very important to let your neighbours know that you were away at the seaside, you know.
Well, what a delightful pair, Miss Smith. It must be quite a handful.
There was always some wonderful little remark and a little joke, and that was a typical seaside occupation, really, sending the cards back home.
And this is their birthplace, miles inland in rural Yorkshire. It was a family company, Bamforth, who started what could have been Britain's Hollywood 100 years ago here in the Picturedrome, that's now been restored by local entrepreneur Peter Carr.
Specific business back in its heyday was the focal point of the whole community. This is where everybody came to see anything live, and this is where everybody came to see a film.
But the First World War spelt the death of the fledgling film industry as the war effort gobbled up celluloid, and Bamforth switched to cards for soldiers to send to their sweethearts. The Saucy Postcard was born.
They became so successful worldwide that they opened up offices all over, all over the planet, producing millions and millions of these postcards.
Holiday habits changed though, and Britons discovered the cheap package overseas. Sales of postcards fell. Bamforth's was bought by a bigger company that then went into receivership. It seemed as if the Saucy Seaside Postcards were destined to die.
How bloody stupid can you get? I distinctly said, prick his boil.
Well, look how colourful.
It was another local boy, Ian Wallace, who wouldn't let that happen. He's now bought what was left from the receivers, copyright to the characters, and literally hundreds of thousands of postcards.
It was just one of the best days in my life. It was wonderful. And from a business point of view as well, I can't get away from that because I am a businessman. I see great potential in Bamforth. The images are so wonderful, they're so fresh. They've given millions and millions of people a lot of happiness over the years, and I think that is what will happen in the future.
For Ian, it's more than a business. It's those memories of the seaside holidays that he had as a child.
When we went up into town, the postcards were there. So I probably, from my early days, 4 and 5, they were probably there. It was only as I got a little bit older and probably started developing the wacky sense of humour that I've got, realised what they were and enjoyed them and thought, oh gosh, wish I could get some of these, and but my mum was there, so I couldn't.
Old Mr. Smith isn't half proud of that cock of his. He's got it out in the garden again.
But let's face it, these cards are an acquired taste.
Well, it's obviously very, very British, but humour is humour. And if you've got a sense of humour, if you go around these walls now and can't find something to laugh at, you're really a pretty sad person.
Henpecked hubbies, fat ladies and big boobs, aren't they a little out of date, so to speak?
Seaside Postcards, a very strange thing. They are, I think, a world apart, and people have accepted that. If political correctness went into the Seaside Postcard, I think they would have finished years ago. But it's not affected them. For some reason or other, people have accepted it.
Cheers, all of you. Cheers, Bill. Cheers, Bill.
Not only are they accepted, says Bill Pertwee, they're here to stay.
If the humour stays very simple, then they'll survive. Of course they'll survive, I'm sure of that. If they start trying to be too clever, it doesn't really work. People don't want to look at it and say, I wonder what, I think I know what that means. They want to look at it, see the fat lady or the henpecked husband or the girl with the big boobies and say, oh, it's a Seaside Postcard. They know immediately it's a Seaside Postcard.